Hello and welcome back, fellow Reds. Welcome back to a fresh new episode of Knock Off the Perch, where me and my co-host Taraj, we talk about everything Manchester United. We record this episode on the back of a remarkable first win under Ruud van Nistelrooy, where we progressed to the quarter-final of Carabao Cup, beating Leicester 5-2 at home. Great game, Aroj. Great way to start the Ruud era. What were your thoughts on it?
I had expected a bit of a resurgence from this team, and they did showcase that. It was, I wouldn't say a drastically different or a drastically improved performance from how we were playing under Erik Ten Hag, but the players did seem a little refreshed, a little happier. I don't know if that made any sense or, we were just getting the goals which made the happiness come out. But yeah, and we were definitely luckier than we had been in the previous game. Some of the deflections were going in, and some of the flick-ons, etc., were landing at the right places rather than what was happening in some of the previous games. But all in all, I think a bit of a positive shift in momentum for us. So that should be good. And from what we're hearing right now, Road has a couple more games. So it will be good for him to get that win so that, the important two Premier League games and the Europa League game that is yet to come before we get into the international break, we move into that in good stead and we are able to get positive results out of that as well.
Yeah, quite positive start for Ruud. It obviously is a very uncertain feeling when you don't know how long you'll be managing United for. I think Ruud van Nistelrooy, when he joined in the summer, I think he was pretty sure that at some point of time or the other, he will be handling Manchester United. That much was clear. That we were pretty certain of Erik Ten Hag's reputation taken a certain depth. Obviously, we all hoped that the results would turn in our favor. But yeah, I feel the players did Erik Ten Hag a bit dirty, considering they didn't turn up on Fenerbahce, they didn't turn up on West Ham, and scored 5 goals. This is the first time United has scored 5 goals against the Premier League opposition after, like, they didn't do it throughout Erik Ten Hag era. Again, this is the first time United has scored 4 goals in the first half. They didn't do it entirely during the Erik Ten Hag era. So yeah, I do feel they did him a bit dirty there. But yeah, of course, Ruud talked about the luck which fell for United, and he said that it fell after a very long time. So yeah, I still feel the Garnacho goal was a bit offside, and Steve Cooper was right in moaning about it. He ended up getting a yellow card infringement for that. So yeah, it was a tad bit lucky game, but yeah, we needed all the luck we could have gotten after the last week we have seen. Whose performance impressed you the most? The obvious candidate here for me is Casemiro. You did touch upon the preview episode that it will be a good center midfield pairing of Casemiro and Ugarte, where Casemiro can take some of the attacking impetus. What did you feel about his performance?
Which he did. I think Casemiro was on top of his attacking game, and defensively he did fairly okay. I felt, apart from a couple of places where he was turned over in possession or lost possession. So all in all, a great game for him. And every time I think about Casemiro, see, the image that we have of Casemiro from his prime days is the Real Madrid Casemiro, right? And there he had the likes of Cruz and Luka Modric with him in the midfield. So he did have to do a lot of creative duties. He didn't have to do a lot of carrying the ball forward duties and all, which is why we didn't know that side of him that well. But it is only when, he came into a midfield where it was almost on him to do all the duties in the first year, is when we saw in the first year as well, he had a few important goals. I think, was it against Everton, Chelsea, then maybe a couple in Carabao. I think he did, I think the Carabao Cup final he scored, right? So all these were important goals that he scored, and I think somewhat that is continuing this season also. Now he has 3 in last 2. So he's probably the most in form of our finishers, right? And I feel that with Ugarte sitting behind him, I think he gets a little more leeway to attack, and he does well there. But overall, I think you talked about we being lucky. I don't know whether it is first game that Road was managing as United manager, that beginner's luck, or whether it was a voodoo on Erik Ten Hag that is gone with him. I don't know what it was, but yeah, Bruno's goal, which was deflected, the deflected free kick went in. Then again, the Bruno second goal also, I think there was a mistake from the player and he was in ample spaces within the box. So he made a smooth finish there. Yeah, all in all, happy that we won, but I'm not getting overjoyed or overexcited. And one thing that bothered me in that game is that we did leave a lot of open spaces in that game in our midfield, which ended up in us conceding 16 shots. Now, obviously, Leicester also somewhat played a second string squad. They were also, I think they are more focused on the Premier League, getting the points in the bag there, and which is where they rotated heavily in this one. I think they rotated 9 out of the 11 players who started the Premier League game. So their elite finisher Vardy was also not on the pitch. So had he been on the pitch, things might have been different. So I think that is what we'll need to be wary of, and that is something Ruud will need to be better at. So let's see how that progresses.
I don't think Root's game has ever been based on a defensive solidity. He does like to create some sort of overloads in the midfield. That has been in game, and it's a very heavy reliance on his wingers. So it is all attack, which Root sees the game as. Yes, he has had a decent defensive record at PSV, but that being said, with this United setup, I think the best chance Ruud van Nistelrooy has of success is by bombarding the ball as forward as possible and working with the attack rather than working with the defense. Even though we have decent players in the defense, I don't rate our defensive setup very highly. And Ruud will have his hands full in his next games as well when he tries to balance out the spaces which are left in the midfield. I think we don't have, other than Ugarte, we don't have a lot of runners in our midfield. Casemiro, if he's playing in a high line, it's very difficult for him to track back. Ericsson also concentrates much more on positional awareness rather than running stats. And Bruno is, we know, like Bruno, as great as he is as creating chances, he doesn't have the necessary discipline to track back, the necessary discipline to uh, stop the chances of the opposition. So Bruno also very much so is concentrated on how to create chances rather than how to stop chances. So yeah, in our upcoming games, it will be very interesting to see how we stop the attacks from going in rather than just bombarding people forward. I think Onana will have to be on his toes. I feel Delit and Licha will have to be very much on their game if we are to salvage good points in the Premier League as well as the Europa League.
I agree. I agree. I am in fact very intently looking forward to Ruud van Nistelrooy's press conference in order to understand if we have any of the folks back from injuries. Although even if we do, I'm not sure if any of them will start. But it will be good to know what kind of squad depth he will have for the immediate next game and also the upcoming games. So I'm looking forward to that, and just in general to understand, how he presents himself. In so far, whatever little I've seen of him as United the manager, I think it has been good. Just one question before we get into the details of upcoming games and all of that. Had we not already learned that Amorim is so close to being done, and with we knowing the dates, etc., when he could be joining us, do you think people would have asked for Root to be at the wheel with the kind of win that we had with him being a legend and all of that?
So he was pretty, I think he was in the top half of the odds of being the next United manager after Ten Hag. He certainly is a personality, although we don't have a lot of information on how he puts out his team. And my argument would always be he paused the part of the coaching setup this season. If he didn't do it as an assistant coach, how much different can it really be with him being a coach? So I think United were in a need of a drastic change in the management setup, and they have made that. Now it is up to the management to see if Root offers enough value under the new new coaching staff or not, because when Ruben Amorim comes, he has negotiated clauses for his backroom staff as well, which includes three assistant coaches. So, Rene Hake and Ruud van Nistelrooy's future is also quite up in the air, to which Ruud did say, see, I'm here for any sort of role which United agrees to. But for me, no, I don't think Ruud is a great option for a manager. I don't think he might have had the pedigree, but I don't think he had the relevant experience which is needed. His teams weren't renowned for being great at certain thing. He has only won one major trophy back in his time. And to be honest, I think he's fairly young in his coaching career. I don't think he is as experienced as the other candidates who were being touted for the job. And Ruben Amorim, you mentioned that his CV does look a lot like Eric Ten Hag's, but nevertheless, it's a good CV. It does bring a bit of hope to the United fans who were tired of seeing a team without identity, and we all recognized that our players are better than the 16th place they are in. So yeah, they were better than 16th, and they showed that in this game under Leicester as well. Even though we conceded two soft goals, even though we had luck on our side, we did create out enough chances. We did have enough shots as well, and it was a great game for a neutral to watch. And they did see if and when United clicks, how that we do have those goals in us. We did see Bruno get his first couple of goals. I think his performance was quite of note. I mean, you do say that it was a lucky goal that he did get the ball, but he still had a lot to do because there was the keeper ahead, and he did shimmy his way out of the keeper and scored a decent goal. And its overall game was pretty good. I thought the dummy he did for the Casemiro goal was quite intelligent, and in general, he kept the ball ticking. He did look that weight has been off his shoulders because he scored his first goal. So I'm quite bullish on Bruno hitting his form. I'm as bullish as getting him into my next wildcard team as well.
Interesting. I think we had a few fairly decent performances. We spoke about Bruno, we spoke about Casemiro, Garnacho. Obviously, I think we have seen this season that whenever he is on the pitch, he has been our outlet where, something happens when the ball is with him. Still not that experienced, still relatively raw, which is where his finishing is not elite at this point in time, but he does bring in a lot of excitement. He gets in a lot of good positions. Some of his shots may not be on target or may not be, placed that well, but he's continuously be doing well and got another goal this time. And I think another player of note was Ugarte. A lot of people on social media spoke about how well he played. I largely agree. I don't think it was a brilliant performance or anything on those lines, but he did fairly well what he was expected to do. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Ugarte, we are seeing the player we bought now. Without doing anything spectacular, he kept the ball possession at most of the times. He kept the ball ticking, and I saw him take the ball back to Onana a couple of times when we were in very dangerous position and taking the sting out of attack. That is something which I'd like to see Ugarte do much more often, as game management has been a big problem with us, and to see some intelligence come into play in midfield is quite refreshing, to be honest. Usually we are only thinking of bombarding forward, and somebody does the defensive, the dirty work. And if a player has dedicatedly been brought to do that, I expect to see that work put in, and we saw that in Ugarte this game. One player I'd like to touch upon is Joshua Zirkzee, who got the rare start recently in this game. I don't think Zirkzee made the most out of the performance. He got 75 minutes on the ball, and it was, even when the game was so much in our favor, even when we were 4-0 up, I was just hoping to see some flash of player from Zirkzee, and I didn't see much, to be honest. And the numbers also don't quite support him starting for quite some time now. We We know Rasmus is numero uno striker for United now, and I think that should continue. One thing which we wanted to see was Zirkzee and Højlund together. We did see it for some time, but I don't think it works as fluid as we thought it would. Zirkzee didn't have the pass accuracy. If he's calling himself a 9.5, he just had a 90% pass accuracy. He didn't make himself available for any goals. He had two shots, one on target, one off target. He didn't. His heat map also looks very not number 10 like. So I wasn't very satisfied with Joshua Zirkzee, and to be honest, Fabio Capello mentioned this, that he saw Zirkzee in Italy and he is a bit on the slower side. Now, I was hoping that he'll be a player like Berbatov, who has the intelligence to move into good spaces. We saw that in the first couple of games, so haven't seen that again. Uh, Zirkzee has a long way to make himself a prime feature in this United side. I have high hopes from him, from the fact that he has played in the front, in a back three setup before, and our new manager will want to get a tune out of our strikers, as goal scoring has been a problem with us. But as of now, I don't see how he warrants a start anytime soon.
No, completely agree. And even the fact that he's not getting into those battles with the other opposition players that well. In fact, in terms of the duels that he was involved in 5 ground duels and 1 aerial duel, so 6 duels in total, and he won none of them. So, and with the Premier League being such a physical league, and when you are, although you can call yourself whatever, you can call yourself a 10, 9.5, 9, whatever, but you are playing that cycle role for United. And if you're not able to win your duels with the opposition centre backs, I think that is a big, big problem. So I think all round he has to develop a lot. Hopefully, the United hierarchy, the new management, etc., that comes in, will earmark some of this developmental path for him, and he is able to come good in the future. Just I think Bayern also got a chance in the Carabao Cup. I don't think he made the best use of the opportunity he got. He was fairly okay. Maybe made one good save, but I think seemed a little tentative at times. I would have hoped that he's able to assert his presence. Maybe give us as fans the confidence that if some odd game Onana is unavailable, Bayern will be able to cover well, which I actually thought based on 2 previous appearances that we had seen him in, but this one he seemed a little shaky. Apart from that, I think everybody else was. So yeah, I think with that, we cover the review of the game against Leicester. Now, moving on to the big one, the home game against Chelsea.
Oh yes, United versus Chelsea is always a high stakes affair, irrespective of where we are in the league table. Chelsea have been quite clinical lately. They are in 5th place. We are in 14th place. It will be a challenge of two very similar style of plays, I believe. Wherein Maresca and Ruud, they both will be vying for their wingers. Both their style of plays have a heavy reliance on their wingers playing well. So yeah, I'm assuming this game will have goals in them. Also, both teams very similar in their defensive input as well, as in there are errors in both the team. So yeah, both the teams are likely to have some sort of brain fart in their defensive setup. Where do you see this one going?
Now, this is an interesting one because last season it was the Chelsea team which were in a similar place where we are right now. They were struggling to get going, and it was only towards the last third of the season when Mauricio Pochettino finally managed to get hold of the Chelsea team, and in fact they ended up finishing higher than us. But I think what it does is it gives us a little bit of confidence that if you don't start the season well, but if you can still string together a few wins, you can still finish the season decently well. So I think that is one positive that I extract from there. But yeah, I think Chelsea overall have been doing really well. I think the decision from Cole Palmer to leave serial winners Manchester City to get good game time are really brave of him, and he's proved really well. I like seeing him, although he hasn't played much for England, but I like seeing him, supporting him whenever I'm supporting the England team. But the idea with Chelsea, especially with Maresca, has been he has been able to extract the maximum out of the team that he has with him. Obviously, this is Todd Bowley's Chelsea. They will make crazy amount of signings year on year. They will loan out some. They will keep the rest 15, away from the main squad, and I don't know do what with them. But I think the core squad that Maresca has with him is utilizing them really well. And some of the choices that Chelsea and Maresca are making, that, for the Conference League group stage, they pretty much have an entirely different squad. The likes of Cole Palmer, etc., are not even part of that squad. So I like some of that decision making where you keep your main players fresh for the Premier League and maybe other domestic competitions in England. So that is interesting to note, and they're obviously sitting in a place on the table where nearer to which we would want to be. They're 1 point behind top four. They're 17 from 9 games so far. And I have always believed that if you pretty much average around 2 points per game, which is finish with 76 points, I think you're more than likely to finish in a Champions League spot. So they are doing all of that, and I think it is time for us to bring a little bit of a stop to that momentum that they have, gain some of our momentum, and which is where the fact that this game is at Old Trafford, I think we should go in with that mindset that we are the favorites to win this. I think that's what Ruud's mindset has to be. And given how Maresca's team we have seen is playing in what even you mentioned earlier with regard to the attacking philosophy that Ruud has, I see this could be a high scoring game.
Oh yes, so Maresca draws a lot from Pep's philosophy. He very well works on those Pep Guardiola principles, wherein a fluent possession-based style he's trying to implement. They also try and maintain the game tempo which they want. In this manner, their midfielders become very important. In fact, I've been very impressed by Romeo Lavia as well as Caicedo. Caicedo we already knew was a great player. Romeo Lavia has impressed me a lot. He receives the ball and just takes the sting out of the game. He very much finds spaces for the front attackers to attack. And this central overload is key for Chelsea's game. The central overload is not just Lavia being very intelligent in that space, but also their fullbacks getting inverted. So both of their fullbacks are very much capable of playing in the midfield. We have seen a return of Reece James. I believe Reece James and Kukureya would be the one who would be starting this game. So maintaining these central overloads and maintaining the width would be key in this game. And in the previous games, we have seen Chelsea run on the counter attack as well. So that is also something United will have to be wary of.
Yeah. So you spoke about the fullbacks inverting, creating those higher numbers in the midfield, and so do they, at times front two or at least Palmer or a Jackson, they drop deep as well. So essentially at any given point in time, they have like those presence of 5 or 6 players in the midfield area, which becomes very difficult for the opposition to deal with, and they can get overwhelmed. And this is when a Palmer or a Nico Jackson gets the ball and they probably do a shimmy here and there and they are in freer space, then they play their wingers on. So I think that is what we'll need to be wary of. And given our history with, whenever we are overloaded in the midfield or pressed high in the midfield, especially I am just going back to the games against Spurs, games against Liverpool at Old Trafford. I hope that Ruud has a plan to tackle that, because we don't want it to be another 0-3 defeat for United at Old Trafford. That will just derail the momentum entirely. So I think that becomes very critical for us. What I am hoping for this United team is to leverage the fullbacks well, because our so-called wingers anyways invert and they are trigger happy to shoot and they will come inwards. I think it will be the role of Dalot and Mazraoui to hold the width well, provide that outlay from the width, because if the central midfield is very compact for Chelsea. We'll have to find spaces on the wings. What do you think?
No, that obviously is a very important area where we'll have to be on our toes against the Chelsea quick counter attacks, the quick tempo attack. Also, this game might be actually won in the midfield battle. I've seen Fernandes, Caicedo, Lavia gain so much control on the tempo of the game. They actually were quite dominant against Liverpool and City in the games which I've seen them. So it coupled with their central overdays, this might challenge defensive setup of United. So that midfield battle between, assuming Lavia and Caicedo start this one, their battle with Ugarte and Casemiro will be key. We know both of them. Ugarte is pretty raw in Premier League, and Casemiro, as well as he's in this great vein of form, he is capable of a mistake. We saw that in the Liverpool game. So that is where I feel this game will be won or lost. What are your predictions for the lineup for this game? Aruj, who do you think starts for United?
I think the back four or the back five should be same as the game against West Ham. I don't see a lot of changes in the personnel there. So Onana, Dalot, Delict, Martinez, and Mazarao. However, what will be critical is how are they playing on the pitch, because both of them are relatively good with their speed running back. So we have had a tendency to play a relatively higher line. But this game, especially with the wingers of Chelsea, running past, and Nico Jackson-Palmer also very good with the ball at their feet and their speed. We'll have to see if that is the best way forward, or we play a slightly deeper line to ensure that we are not getting caught on the counter. So that will be important. What do you think? Do you agree on those five?
Oh, no, yeah, the back five, they pick themselves, and you're bang on the idea of us maintaining a very well backline setup, not trying to get too cute with the high line, playing the offside trap. I think that will be very bad ideas. This is a game which Onana has to command his defensive setup, the four in front of him, and keep them on their toes. I think it will be a bad idea to build a lot from the back. I think we should be mixing it up in this game, because their attackers, they have a tendency to press forward as well. Although this is Chelsea's strength and weakness too. Their defenders also do get caught on a lot while building up from the back, and Maresca emphasizes on building up from the back. So that is where I think our attackers will get some joy as well if they press very well. So yeah, I think the back five I agree with. The mid three, I think for this game too, will be Casemiro, Ugarte, and Fernandes. Casemiro did show that he can move forward and create something and shoot as well. And his set pieces attacking has been top notch this season. I think at the end of every wall we have seen a Casemiro at something which we used to see with the Maguire. This season we are seeing it with Casemiro. Ugarte has made a good point of getting into the starting lineup. He was pretty neat, and we will need his legs against Lavia as well as Caicedo.
I think I largely agree with the midfield that you spoke about. I was only wondering if there is any merit for Eriksen to start this one, but maybe given how Chelsea play and probably having a Ugarte holds higher value, especially in a route setup where we are talking about that defensive midfielder needs to be braver, needs to have more legs. Otherwise, if Eriksen is playing, then Casemiro has to play that role, and Eriksen is further forward. So yeah, maybe I think it's Ugarte and Casemiro and Bruno in front of them. And what about attack? I think, in my opinion, the same attack of Garnacho on the left, Højlund striker, and Rashford on the right picks itself. However, I think Rashford last couple of games it's been a mixed bag, right? Sometimes when you see him playing across the attacking, where he has the free role to sort of move anywhere and everywhere, it seems like he is having a higher impact. But for some reason, it just feels that he is not as comfortable on the right as, he himself believes he is on the left. which is where I think he feels that he's a little further away from the goal. He has to contribute more in defense. I don't know what it is, but I think from an end product perspective, it diminishes Rashford's impact.
Agree. But Garnacho's run of form has been great for me. I wouldn't want to break that momentum for Garnacho. I believe Rashford, as great as he is, can play on the right, and we don't have any other player, even though Amar has a point to prove on the right. But I feel Rashford is a player who, in any second of the game, can decide the result. So I feel that Root should be sticking to a combination of Garnacho on the left, Højlund up top, and Rashford on right.
Agree. And in terms of the score, what is your prediction? What do you think the scoreline will be?
I'm foreseeing a high-scoring match like the last year. I'd give it a 3-2.
Okay. I think I will just go a little conservative this game and say we get a 2-2 draw against Chelsea in this one.
Although
So both of us are saying that United concede 2. You are saying we score 3, I am saying we score 2 as well.
we can afford to lose this one. We are already on 15th position. We'll drop back to 16th if we lose this one. We need those 3 points on the table for the rising in the table as well as the momentum. These 3 points are very necessary. And again, these are the kind of games which fans live for. We'd want to see some attacking impetus in this game. All right, folks, this would be from us this week. Do give us your feedback. Do share the episode. Do like the episode. Do let us know how we can improve.
And yes, as always, this is our perch. Let's knock him off. Until next time, stay united.